All right, welcome back. Three stories across every medium, the phone screen, the silver screen, the TV screen. First, the Supreme Court ordering a new look at social media laws in Texas and Florida. Plus, Inside Out topping $1 billion at the global box office, and Paramount removing some content from the digital streaming platforms. Julie Borson here to break down all three. Let's start with that SCOTUS ruling. Explain what the Supreme Court did and what was at stake in this. I believe it was a Texas law and one other state. A
Texas and Florida law. So the Supreme Court decided not to rule. It would have been a much bigger deal if the Supreme Court had come down with a ruling on these Texas and Florida laws. These laws were aiming to protect conservative voices on social media from content moderation. So it would have been a much bigger deal if they said, yes, you are allowed to prevent content moderation on the social media platforms, which the tech...
In other words, in simple terms,
they kicked it back down.
Can't kick you off or can't muzzle you for a political viewpoint.
But the Supreme Court said that we're going to kick it back down to the lower courts. We're not going to make a decision. So ultimately, there was no decision. Yes,
Supreme Court.
But the fact that they didn't make a decision is probably a good thing for the social media platforms, because if they had said, sure, go ahead, you're allowed to have this law preventing content moderation, that would have been more restriction on the social media platforms.
I've always thought of social media companies as effectively, this goes to the heart of the debate, really, as publishers. And no one has a right to force a publisher to publish something.
That's the question of free speech. Are they publishers? Can you treat the publishers like...
Or are they a billboard?
Are they a utility? There are a lot of questions about how we should treat the social media platforms, and ultimately, the trade associations representing the social media platforms said that these laws in Florida and Texas were a violation of free speech, and that's how this all escalated to the Supreme Court. But there is other news today out about Meta, and it's the fact that the EU is charging Meta for violating its digital competition law. And what the EU is saying is that Meta is offering the option of either paying a subscription not to have ads, or you have ads which use your data to target ads towards you. And Meta is saying by offering these two options, we are complying with EU laws. Subscription to get away with to avoid advertising.
And sharing of private data.
Yes. And so what the EU is saying is that we think this is not in compliance with our laws. So Meta sent us a statement saying they did indeed think this is entirely in compliance with the EU's regulations. So we'll see how this all this it escalates or doesn't escalate.
All right, let's move on then to the box office. Why do I have to? We had a bad experience with it. Okay, Disney's Inside Out is becoming the first member of the $1 billion club since Barbie. It's a simple news story. It is, by the way, one of the stories. It's a sequel, but still one of the more original kind of films that we've seen hit theaters in recent years.
But here's why this is big news. After Barbie, last year, Barbenheimer, people were really excited that the box office was going to come back. But this year, the year-to-date box office has been a huge disappointment. Before this weekend, the box office year-to-date was down 21% from last year. And remember, last year still wasn't at 2019 levels.
That's because of the strikes, though. As I understand, it pushed a lot of content that might have come this year back.
But there's also a lot of concern that maybe people got out of habit of going to the movies. But the good news is this weekend brought the box office up. So now the box office is only down 19% year-to-date. Going into this weekend, it was down 21% year-to-date. But the good news is that people will come back. If it's a movie they want to see, a franchise they're very excited about. We saw The Quiet Place day one, which was a sequel in the Quiet Place franchise. It had the best opening of any movie in that franchise and brought in $98 million globally. So we're seeing people come back. There's a lot of enthusiasm about Despicable Me 4, which is going to be open over the long holiday weekend. So the good news is the box office is inching back. But people won't come back just for anything.
Inside Out 2 has been out how many weeks?
I believe it's about 3 weekends now. We're going into the fourth weekend.
And it has topped $1 billion?
Yeah, and it's topped $1 billion faster than any other animated movie has ever hit $1 billion.
It's a Pixar. It's a
Disney Pixar movie.
First time they've had that in a long time.
Well, this is the first time Pixar has had $1 billion movie since 2019, and the pace, the pace at which it got to $1 billion is really notable. It shows that once a movie has momentum, it really takes off.
All right, let's go on to Paramount, purging some video clips and other content from streaming and digital platforms, creating outrage And worry online about potential content preservation.
So ComedyCentral.com had a massive archive. If you want to watch an old Jon Stewart show, you could go back for decades and find these old episodes. But Paramount, as we know, is under a lot of financial pressure. We've been talking about all the chaos going on with Paramount Global, selling, deciding not to sell. And ultimately, this is all designed to drive people to Paramount TV. They want people to subscribe to Paramount Plus. They want people to either be watching television or subscribing to their subscription channel, and they weren't sufficiently monetizing these old archives on ComedyCentral.com. So this is a strategic decision. They may continue to make changes as they try to figure out the best way to monetize their current shows, but also the archive. And ultimately, the archive wasn't making them enough money.
This is great news for them, then. The great media attention, because if we're talking about a raise awareness, the stock is still down almost 3% today. It's over $10 still, but that's exactly the play. You'd hope that if people really want those archives, they're really willing to pay up for them.
And they'll get Jon Stewart, they get Colbert, they get other...
But also, you want people to watch the newest shows, because that's where Paramount is going to make the most money in terms of the ad revenue.